Good evening, everyone. We begin with a tragic breaking development in the search for a missing woman from Nashville.
The last time anyone saw the mother of three alive was last Saturday. Since then, there has been an all-out search effort to find her. The 45-year-old was reported missing last Sunday. From that time, her family and friends knew that she could be in danger because the last person she was seen alive with was her ex-boyfriend, James Vaughn. When police went to ask Vaughn what happened, there was an hours-long standoff in Clarksville, and that ended with Vaughn being shot to death by police. But there was still no sign of Letitia.
Our very first day working this case, boots on the ground, we talked to all these homeowners and people involved and family members. And, you know, it's Friday night, we're trying to wrap everything up. And then we get a call that was a huge twist in the case. I mean, the only person that we thought may be involved in this kidnapping, we learned is now dead. So do you remember what happened to James?
Yes. They went in Clarksville that, evidently they had a barricaded suspect. And when they got there, they tried to, talk to him, tried to get him out and everything. And then finally, when cut it really short, but bottom line is when they finally went in, he had already taken his own life. So
I think police shot his ass.
did they? No, did they really?
Yeah.
Because I thought that when they got in there, now they had already shot because he did shoot, but I don't remember confirmation on that.
So what happened is the police are doing the same thing we're doing. We're trying to figure out the case.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
And once they learned that James had ties to Clarksville, they went up there to do a knock and talk, just like we would have done. I mean, really, they beat us to the punch, and they went to his apartment location, knocked on the door. It was obvious he wasn't answering. I think at some point he may have appeared in the window with a gun. They did. They backed out. They called SWAT. They started lobbing tear gas in through the window. And then at some point, their special response team or SWAT, they made entry. And James pointed a gun or two at them. And then, well, what we know, you don't point guns at police. And they shot him and killed him.
Right.
This is Friday night. Like, all of this has happened so fast. And, we get hired on a Thursday. We're boots on the ground Friday. We learn Friday night that the person that might be involved is now dead. And we're like, well, if that is the only person that knew if he was involved, if that's the only person that may have kidnapped this lady, then well, now he can't talk, he can't say anything. So obviously, from an investigator standpoint, the first thing you do is grab their phone, try to grab their phone and figure out where they were within the last week. I mean, I remember talking to Gallatin PD, Metro PD. I even tried talking with FBI agent. Actually, I played softball with. And what's interesting about being the police is when you're the police, people will share information with you. But the day you retire and your card says retired officer, I don't talk to you.
Yeah.
You're done. You're out. You're not trustworthy anymore. And I actually have some emails that I'd saved from 2018 where we were going hard. We were doing everything we can to find this lady and figure this out and hope we could bring her home safely. And, it's not a competition. We want to help. We want to help. That's why we're here. But sometimes PIs, they get a bad reputation because people do some dumb stuff, or they don't have experience in working cases. And this is not a job. This is not a job where you can say, oh, let's fake it till we make it. I mean, you're dealing with people's lives here. And, this was very important to us, and we wanted to solve it just as quick as the police and her large family and friends. So I was emailing these detectives. There was a tip that came in that the missing lady's sister knew before us, really, and it was about someone being kidnapped from a Gallatin Pike McDonald's.
Right.
And we were going there. We were trying to get video footage. We had heard something about a Pilot gas station. We were going there to get video. And, we were just trying to backtrack and put all the pieces of the puzzle together, like you said. So I remember getting the email from the Gallatin detective saying, I saw an email chain where she provided information to the family's sister, but yet when I asked for an update for information, I got, "I'm sorry, Metro's handling the case. I can't talk to you." So, it'd be a little bit easier if we had the full support or even some, and the police wanted our help.
Yeah.
And, I know we both know a great homicide detective that did work this case and worked it quickly. And Mike's a great dude. And he actually did. He gave us a little information. He knew that we were boots on the ground. I mean, why wouldn't you accept the help?
Right. And that's where we really were. We were lucky, even though a lot of, like you say, the Gallatin detective, she wasn't able to help us. But when they had their gathering, and, they invited us, the family invited us to come. And when we got there, we were able to kind of step outside and talk to the Metro detective that was working the case. And we were able, he knew us. So that made it a whole lot easier because he knew we weren't, just fly by night or whatever. And, that gave us a little bit of an advantage, even though he still, if it's an open case, and at this point, we knew that it was serious, and if the guy had taken his life, we knew. But so he was willing to work with us and to give us the information that he could. And so that helped us be able to go and assist and help to, check other places, to look at other people and that kind of stuff. So.
Well, and I remember that Saturday. I mean, we had just gotten hired, and then the guy, James, that people were looking at as a main suspect is now dead.
Right.
And it's almost like starting from the beginning, even worse, because if we think this guy actually took this lady, then where is she? Is she safe? Is she dead? So many questions.
We also got information that a mutual friend of James said that the suspect that had passed, that his ex-wife, who lives in Indiana, so all of this is just phone calls, had called, and that he had called her and stated that he had killed everyone and that he had nothing to live for. So, and if that information had been, this was a day too late. So if we had gotten that information, or if she had taken him seriously, there's a chance that maybe, he could have been taken alive if we had had that, or, but we didn't, the police department didn't. So, even though we got that information and it was, basically a day late. So,
Yeah, and all we knew is she's still missing at this point. So, we leave that the family gathering, and we got some more tips and intel out of that, and then we all departed. And we told Mike. Mike was there. We said, "Look, we're going to keep working on this, boots on the ground. If there's some direction you need us to go, or house you need us to knock on to, let us know." But still kind of running a little blind, but with a plan and with our experience. So we head out to the Gallatin area, where we knew that James had a bunch of family members. And I believe we knocked on 8 or 9 different doors. all family members, mother. We spoke to the mother of James. We spoke to some sisters. I would say spoke to loosely because we got ran off their property.
Yes. They did not want to talk to us.
They did not want to talk to us. I think there was some yelling and cursing going on, saying, "Get the F off our property."
Yeah. But I mean, you know, in a way, I understood because, you know, they had just lost him. All of that had just happened. So, I mean, I'm sure they felt like he was responsible, but they were not going to help us. You know, even after death, they were not going to help us pin that on him.
So then there's some information that came in where we had a nickname from somebody that works at a gas station in Lebanon, and all we know is a girlfriend, and this guy's name was Mississippi. And this, I mean, we're laughing because this is the stuff that you get, and these are the things that can be frustrating, but as an investigator, you have to track this stuff down. So what do? We go to the gas station, we start talking to people, handing cards out, and I would say within an hour, you know, this was all over the news. So at the end of the day, I think people want to help. And within an hour or so of us initially interviewing, you know, we get a call, and it's actually this guy. So we figure out who he is, and who he was is he was the co-worker of James. And maybe it helped that James was now deceased and people were willing to talk more about it. But again, at this time, we still have no idea where this lady is, and we want to know as soon as we can. So I remember we head to this place in Lebanon where this guy worked. It was like a wood making place, or a place that supplied wood. So we went there, and we talked to this guy, and then we thought, well, you know, technology is 2018. There's all kind of technology out there. I mean, with our experience with police, there's GPS pings, there's GPS tower data. You know, everybody has their phone in their hands these days. And that was one of the things that we were honing in on. That was one of the things I was talking to this FBI agent about that pretty much got stonewalled. And we did learn through Metro that the last ping on this lady's phone was at the Gallatin and 109 bridge that went from Wilson County to Sumner County. That was the last ping. And, you know, pinging a phone is really something that you can do where you force the phone company to ping your location every 15 minutes. But these were tower locations. So basically how that works is your phone has to be active and on, and some cell phone providers won't give you a location unless the phone is actually being utilized, like a text message or a phone call. But all we knew is that the last GPS location, whether it was from a tower, from a ping, but the last location we had was actually on a bridge. So once we learned that, you know, we're in the midst of talking to this guy, we learned that, and then we're like, well, we need to go look at the river. So I remember, like, we have a drone. So we have a drone up. We're walking the banks. I mean, you know, those are just things that we had turned our attention to. And I mean, you know, sometimes it can be easy to just go down rabbit holes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know, you know, there's so much land and water, and I mean, you know, obviously there's bodies that get dumped in the river, you know, I don't know about all the time, but it happens. And, you know, we wanted to look because that was a lead, but then we thought, well, let's go back. Let's keep running with this GPS, you know, thing. And I remember going back to the lumber company and asking them, like, hey, this guy, James, he had worked with this guy. He told us that they rode together in the truck. And I asked them for if they had GPS on their truck, if they had trackers on the truck. And, well, lo and behold, they did. And so they were, you know, nice enough to work with us. And that's where I think PIs can kind of, you know, maybe not get away with things, but just kind of talk their way into the company. I mean, the company, they own the data, they own the information. So, I mean, it's just something that we asked for and they provided it. At the end of the day, like I said, we're trying to find this lady. So what we learned is, the truck went all over Nashville delivering lumber and such. But what the guy didn't tell us in the first interview, which is very common, you go back and interview somebody and, they might tell you something totally different. So, as we're sitting there talking to him, he told us that James had gotten really angry, like so angry on the Friday before, that he left work, and that, that was a little bit uncharacteristic like James, but, he just got so mad, flew off the handle and left work, and then never saw him again, and then learned that, he, pointed a gun at police and got shot and killed. But we wanted to hone in the location, and we thought this guy probably knew a little bit more than what he was saying. And, he was telling us about Gallatin, and, I don't know if you remember one thing this guy said, but he said something to the effect of, well, if James killed her, then he probably had a good reason. And I thought, why in the hell would someone say that? And then he just kept apologizing. So, then your detective brain goes to, well, is this guy involved? We knew somebody moved the truck. We knew somebody went up to Clarksville in a small time frame and took James' truck and moved it somewhere, because we talked to another lady. Well, she was a feisty lady. But here inserts all this drama, and, oh, this lady that's missing, she could have threatened this family, and maybe that's a reason. Well, then once you hear that, it's like, well, maybe there's other suspects, and, we still don't know. So we're still following up on leads. We're talking to people. We've done all these things. We go back, at the end of the day, sometimes you have to just go back and see what have we done so far? And that's why you do a case report. And we look at all the tasks that we've done, and then what can we do to further it. I mean, we don't have subpoena power, so it would be hard to try to execute subpoenas on James's phone and this lady's phone. It was March 21st, 2018 that I texted the detective and I said, hey, this is our update. These are the houses that we went to in Gallatin. I said, I think you need to follow up with this guy at this lumber place. He's got some information, and I think he's not telling us everything that he has.
Hey, Mr. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
Good. Hey, my name's Robert Young, and I'm a private investigator. So,
Okay.
I mean, obviously, we're a little bit behind the ball, because this is a week ago that Letitia went missing. And I'm trying to get a little bit of information here and there, and you know how it goes, man. The streets all say crazy different things. So,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see if you have any insight in on it. And let me ask you this off the bat: who is that?
That's my cousin, and I can tell you right now, if that girl was involved in anything, it would be a total shock to me, because this girl don't do nothing but go to work, always has. She's never gotten high, don't drink. All this girl do is work, and I can call her, and I guarantee you she'll be glad to talk to you, answer any type of questions. Now, if you're looking at me, you can look at me and you can see that I have a past and stuff, but I'm not going to try to deny that. Yes, Fuzz was my cousin. As far as all of this stuff going on, I ain't did nothing but heard what I hear, bits and pieces, just like you're saying, and what I've seen on the news. I have not seen or talked to Fuzz, and I couldn't tell you when. Probably, I know, over a month. Only time I would even see Fuzz here lately is when he would come to my job wanting something to eat. I'm a general manager of a restaurant. I go to work every day, man. That's what I do. You can search my phone records, do whatever you need to do as far as with me. You know what I'm saying? I go downtown every week to take a drug test, all of that. I'm not trying to get myself involved in nothing. I've heard something about Fuzz, thought somebody was after him and all of this type of stuff. I do not know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I
Have
don't
you
know
heard
what went on
that
with
he
it.
may have got shot at some point?
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been around him. So I don't know what he had, what he was involved in, what he had going on. All I know is about and what I do. I know that I'm at work every single day. You can look at my schedules, you can look at my records, whatever. I really don't even want all of this around my job and have my bosses and stuff thinking I'm involved with some craziness like this, but I am free to talk to whoever I need to talk to about me. I can't speak on nobody else because I haven't been around my family. I haven't been around nobody, so I don't know what's going on with anyone. I don't know who received any text messages. I don't know that because I haven't been around them.
Hi, I'm Bobby Young, owner of Covert Results, a private investigations and armed security company operating in Nashville, Tennessee. Currently, we have 18 licensed private investigators and over 70 armed security officers, all delivering peace of mind. Probably within the hour, I got a phone call from actually the guy that we were actually talking to at the lumber place, and he had said that he just heard that police found a body. I texted the detective, Mike, and I said, one of the individuals that we just interviewed is now saying that you all find a body. Can you confirm? And, Mike ended up calling me quickly and saying, yes, we are out here. We are at a barn that caught fire last week, and the fire department showed up, they put the fire out, and then they left. And I think that was some policies and procedures with fire departments. I don't know, we weren't firefighters, but they put the fire out, and I think if it's an abandoned location or abandoned barn or something, there's something about, they just put the fire out, they do their job, and then they leave. They're not going in to search it. And it was a week later that the homeowner, the people that own the barn went and to look at things, check out the damage, and that's when they found the body. So Detective Mike said, "Hey Bobby, I just want to let you know that we found Leticia Lane." And that's when we knew that, well, for one, the missing lady that we were hired to find is now deceased, which is a very sad ending. At the end of the day, though, the family can get closure. They know, and not everybody knew, not the whole family. So, obviously police notify the next of kin. So they were finding out at the same time we were. And, I told Mike, I said, look, well, we've got a lot of interviews that we've done. And, typically with murders, there's other people involved. So I said, look, we're going to put everything together in a report. We'll get you all the recordings of our interviews. We'll get you any pictures or videos that we captured during our case. We're going to put it all together and we'll give it to you. So, it was one of those cases that it didn't last very long because, we were, all the information we were receiving is so quick. I mean, if you're keeping up with the dates and the days of the week, we were working around the clock. Right. We got the call on a Thursday. We were boots on the ground Friday. We were going to a family gathering on Saturday. We were interviewing people on Saturday. We were scouring the banks of the river on Saturday and Sunday, utilizing all the tools that we had as private investigators in the private sector to our advantage. And all it took is a little teamwork. And, I really think that, eventually we were getting that information that points us, everything and all roads and information that we had was pointing us back to Gallatin. So, and I did a little map. I didn't know if you had seen that in the last page of the report here, but, if you remember, so those 3 points is where, that is the knock and talks that we were doing up in Gallatin, and then you see where the barn is. I mean,
so close, and that's the whole thing. I mean, we had been up and down the road that led to the barn. I mean, like you say, just so close to where she was, and of course we had no idea, but we were honing in slowly but surely. And I still believe, and I remember our client that called us, I mean, I still think he gave us a lot of credit because our continued and, giving him updates, we are here and we're doing this. And I think he really felt like we pushed the police department to actually act a little bit faster, check out things. And like you say, a lot of times they don't have the time and the resources, that we had to just dedicate, the 24/7 looking at this, coming back, updating, reviewing, the information that we had. And that way we could, update our client and along with it, give the detective the information that we were getting so that he could kind of cut to the chase. And so I think in doing that, I think that really helped our client really feel like, without us, it may have been, so much longer before we actually, got closure, for that whole thing. So I think they were very appreciative, the family especially. And don't get me wrong, I mean, the Metro detective, I mean, he told us several times how much he appreciated, what we were doing and how we were keeping everybody informed. So sometimes I think when we were given the information, immediately to the family, but they are who we were working for at that time. So any kind of an update that could have led to, another lead until she was found, I mean, we were going to continue that. So a lot of times, I think the family's calling him going, hey, okay, now we know this has happened, so what are you doing about this? So, of course, sometimes we were kind of going step by step, with them, because that's what we did on the department too, so.
Yep.
But yeah.
I mean, we wanted them to have a good experience, even though it was a devastating ending for the family. But at the end of the day, we got answers and we got results. And, we still hold on to the evidence that we gathered from 2018, our very first case. So, these missing persons cases, we get calls all the time, but we don't work a ton of them because they are so difficult to work. I mean, so many of them don't have a happy ending.
Right.
And a lot of times, especially the younger people or juveniles, if it's more of a runaway situation versus a missing person kidnapping. And this was a true kidnapping and murder case.
Missing for nearly 2 weeks and now feared dead. This is the nightmare a local family is living tonight as word a body found in a burned out barn could be that of their daughter, sister, and mom. News Channel 5's Jonquil Newland has the latest development in the disappearance of Leticia Lane.
It's been nearly 2 weeks since Leticia Lane was reported missing by her family. Tonight, however, one step closer to closure for her loved ones, as authorities believe they may have found her body underneath the rubble of this burned barn in Gallatin.
She wouldn't be leaving.
9 days ago, Wilma Taylor sat down with me, surrounded by her family and loved ones. She pleaded for the public's help in finding her daughter, 46-year-old Leticia Lane.
She is my firstborn daughter.
On that day, they believe she had been taken by her ex-boyfriend, James Vaughn, who the week before had showed up at her job in Nashville to say he was leaving town and asked to take her out one last time. 3 days after that interview, Vaughn was shot and killed by officers in Clarksville after a standoff which lasted hours. Police were there to ask him about Leticia's whereabouts.
He pointed the weapons at the officers, as we understand it. They fired upon him, killing him.
Days passed after that standoff. No word from Leticia, but her family and friends held out hope.
We lift this family up before you, Lord God.
Their hope to find her alive, however, faded today after authorities discovered a body in the rubble of this burned barn. Witnesses say it burned down on the 15th. That's 1 day before Vaughn's standoff with police. Authorities in Gallatin have not released the identity of the body. However, Metro Police are nearly certain it's that of Leticia.
Thank you for tuning in to Evidence Uncovered. Please remember to follow us on all social media platforms across the board.